right, everybody. We let this move fast. Okay, good thing we're gonna edit that part out. 3, 2, 1. All right, everybody. Here we go once again. It is the original Friday Night Vibe. I'm K.A.S.H, and we are also live on 89.5 KPOO, the soul of San Francisco, with my homeboy KBZ for Sheezy on the Rap Snacks radio show every Friday night from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. So if you're listening to the audio on KPOO or KPOO.com, what up, what up? And today in the building, we have a very special guest. We have somebody who I believe has transcended a lot of states of being for the past 15 years. How long have I known you, bro? About 15? Yeah, about 15 years. And I think it's very important that when we talk about Bay Area hip hop culture, we talk about more than just the music, more than just, the lyrics and the beats and the politics behind what it is that we go through out here in the Bay every day and in Northern California in general. But without further delay, let me introduce this brother. Drum roll, please. Fake drum roll, please, if you're listening. Everybody give it up for Amir the Photographer. What's up,
sir? What's going on, good brother? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm kind of jealous though, man, because that lighting game you got is fire.
I'm D-La.
And I was like, man, are you interviewing me?
gotta look right, man. That's the thing. You gotta make sure that everything is good to go, man.
Well, I think for me, and I think for a lot of people, that's a starting point to where we can navigate this interview. Basically, you came from a world of audio to now a world of visual. You get what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't understand how that happened. They might see it and say it happened, but just how and why. Before we get into that specifically, though, I'm gonna take us all the way back from the beginning. Talk about where you were born and raised.
So for me, I was born in San Francisco, which a lot of people don't know. I was raised in Oakland. And so, the first couple years of life I spent in San Francisco. And then when I was about 4, moved to East Oakland. And that's where I spent a lot of my formative years. So from 4 to about 13, spent in East Oakland. And then my mom passed away in 97 and then went to LA, spent time with my father. And then after high school, moved back up to Northern California, and the rest is history.
Okay. Now, when you were in Oakland as a child, what are some things that you can find that are staples in your memory as far as your upbringing? It varies from person to person. What are yours?
The ones that stand out to me is Verdi's Carter Park, which is right next, just like a block away from where I grew up. Carter Park on 96 and Sunnyside, 98th. Is basically one of the staples of the community. And you had a lot of folks that served in Park and Rec that really cared about the kids in the neighborhood. So for me, Parks and Recs is definitely huge. Our schools, Cox Elementary and Elmhurst Middle School, we have people at those schools that really cared and really, gave their all to make sure that kids from the East had something. And so those are the two kind of areas that really were formative in my life, the park and school.
Now, can I give you a fun fact, man?
Go ahead.
I went to Verdi's E. Carter Middle School, man.
Ooh, man. That's that 6 degrees of separation right there.
Grimy. They turned it into something else now. It's like an international school or something. But it was only one nation that you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One country you knew for a fact. Well, maybe about 2 or 3, but man, it's definitely a reflection of the community. But yeah, 6 degrees, man. I went to Verdi's E. Carter Middle School. You know what I'm saying? All right, man. Well, let me nudge it a bit forward, not too far, but you mentioned that you were in Southern California. And when you were done in Southern California, you came back to the Bay Area. What were some of the circumstances, as best as you can recall and feel comfortable talking about, that led you to transition from Oakland to Southern
Well, the biggest transition is the passing of my mom's. When she passed in '97, it was kind of like the de facto place for me to go was to Southern California. So I went to Long Beach, where I
Mhm.
went to Long Beach Poly High School, which is shout out to the Jackrabbits. Went out there and I graduated from Bellflower, and so that was kind of the catalyst that brought me to Southern California.
Yeah.
But coming from the Bay Area, that was like a night and day experience because here in the Bay we have turfs and we have gangs and things like that, but in LA it's a completely different world. And so I
Yeah.
wasn't ready for that. And I wasn't ready for how distant at the time things were because they don't really play Bay Area hip hop in LA. Is usually LA only kind of hip hop.
Yeah.
And so you gotta I was away from the Bay for like pretty much almost 4 years where you didn't really hear anything from 97 to 2000, 2001. I was just pretty much oblivious to because in LA, they wasn't playing none of that at
Yeah.
all. They would just play whatever, Dre or, Snoop or whoever. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And I can probably relate to not the passing of the mother, of course,
Mhm.
because my mother is still here. But around that time, man, my father did a lot of drugs,
Mhm.
and that was not the first year. And by that time, he was already gone. So
Yeah.
I felt like as you were describing that, there was a part of me that could empathize because in the way that you lost your mom and you
Mhm.
had to be with your father, I lost my father due to drugs. He's still alive, but I mean, just in the family structural context, I lost my
Yeah.
father, and then I had to end up, with my mom, and I love my mom, but that wasn't my like choice. I didn't have any agency in the matter.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can empathize with you,
Mhm.
and that leads me to you just mentioned you didn't really hear a lot of Bay Area hip hop
Mhm.
from '97 to 2000. What's 2002, 2001?
Yeah, 97 to '01.
Oh, yeah. And in that time frame, what did you have as in your lexicon as far as Bay Area hip hop that you could hold on to and say, all right, I might be in a different land, but I know I have this as a kind of time capsule, compass,
Mhm.
a reminder, a grounder for me to just stay focused.
Well, I mean, prior to moving, we had some of the biggest hip hop albums that were to come out in '96. Tupac, All Eyes on Me. Then you had Machiavelli. You had, a lot of stuff from E40 and different Bay Area artists. Spice One or the Loonies or Delinquents or Ant Banks or whoever. You
Mhm.
had different folks kind of still, kind of holding that torch.
Yeah.
So there would be little instances that I would, stay with the vibes, and but any type of new artist wasn't even on my radar until I came back up in 2001, and then even in SAC, it was still even from SAC to the Bay Area is still a
Mm.
nuance where you don't necessarily hear everything as well. So
Yeah.
being away, you understand how unique the Bay Area hip hop scene is, and then you realize how in other markets they don't really show the Bay as much love as you think. You would think that you would get, especially in California, you would think that at least being in the same state, you would have other kind of support, but it's really like they play their music down there, we play our music up here, and that's kind of how it's always been.
Right. Now, when you got to the point where you were back, describe because you kind of skipped to it. Not to, it's not that, but
Mhm.
when you got to the point where you were back in the Bay, back in Northern California, you kind of described like missing out. You had some albums in your mainframe that you can kind of take with you and kind of kept held you down while you were away, right?
Mhm.
I think the next question would be when you got back, what what how did that culture shock land on you? Was it mild? Was it like, oh, okay, this is what's going on now? Was it, "Man, I really got to get with it, man? How
You
did
had
that?
to you had to kind of get with it because by the time I started, when I was like really kind of back, you started to have the hyphy. Hyphy was starting to take off. You have Fab and you have Mac Dre and you have a lot of the other talented folks from the Bay was starting to come up. So you were
Yeah,
like, wow, okay, what is this? What is this Ghost Ride movement? What is that all about? And you starting to see a lot of the energy. So
yeah,
um, you starting to see that, and then on my own personal path, I started to do a lot of positive, hip hop and Islamic rap, and because that's where I was at spiritually at that time. So,
right,
you had the Bay coming in with high feet, and then me personally, we're trying to do more of what we call halal rap, which
right,
was, in a response to kind of the country's, attitude towards Muslims.
Yeah.
after 9/11 and dealing with that kind of reality. So, for me, because even though I'm from East Oakland, I decided to do things in a different way. I knew that rapping about a certain thing wasn't my lifestyle. And so I had to do something that was unique and authentic to me. And so that's where that came in. And yeah, man, we was really trying to do our best to kind of counterbalance hip hop at the time of what we saw as a need for spirituality or a need for kind of wellness and all that. So
Yeah, yeah, that's deep, and that is something. See, the way that you're describing it, I'm hearing a natural progression
mhm,
based off of everything that happened in that '97 to 01 time frame,
mhm,
and I think from there, I want to not stop and like not move forward, but kind of unpack this 90, not 97, not even that, bro. Maybe like '01, '02, '03, because hyphy, we can, it can be argued that, '04, '05,
mhm.
'06. So that 2001 to 2003. Talk a little bit more about why you decided to be the contrary to what essentially became hyphy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because there's a lot there where you could have gone along with that, but you didn't. And, why is that?
I think you gotta, I think the biggest thing is just being authentic to yourself.
Yeah.
As I said, I grew up in East Oakland, 96 to Sunnyside. Saw a lot of things growing up as a youth.
Yeah.
And for me, you just gotta go what is uniquely, close to your spirit. And I think for me, you can rap about that and you can have that imagery, but I knew that number one, it wasn't authentic to me. And then secondly, it
Yeah.
wasn't really speaking to the destiny of my people, which is very important to me, even as a creative today, making sure that whatever I produce is best reflective of the community I'm from. It was something that kind of motivated that change for me. I don't want for me to ever be attached to something that constantly to speak death or to speak pain and to I want to kind of do the opposite. So any type of creative endeavor, I always try to, kind of hone it and kind of craft it to a space where it's healing and that is kind of therapeutic as well.
All right. All right. And you know what? That's dope because I believe that, like yourself, I went through that moment and I'm always trying to unpack and really uplift how and why people make that pivot. You know what I mean? Because the last time Friday Night Vibe was the Friday Night Vibe, it could be argued that before 2006, right? I was probably one of those people that you might have said, "Oh no, I'm not trying to be like you." You know what I mean? The music
Right.
that I made and the music that I played on the Friday Night Vibe when it was just strictly audio, right? The people
Right.
say, "Oh, you know what I mean?"
Yeah.
And time circumstances change people, and if we don't know the backstory, the origin story, and it kind of looks kind of wonky and like, what? How did that happen? And I'm glad that you described how. That's good for our listeners and our viewers. All right. So before we move forward, one more time, if you're listening on 89.5 KPOO, the soul of San Francisco, this is the original Friday Night Vibe in conjunction with my homie K BZ for Sheezy. Rap Snacks Radio is in the building. 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. if you're listening on 89.5 KPOO. Cool. If you're listening online, kpoo.com. What up? What up? Let's do this, man. You talked about Islamic hip hop, allow rap. We'll talk a little bit more about the rap part, but I do want to talk about culturally being an African American, black man, Muslim in the Bay Area. How did that in itself influence the hip hop part of what it is you were trying to do? Right? Because you could have been like Amir the hip hop photographer at that time.
Right.
No, I
Yeah.
want to rap. You know what I mean? Amir the halal chef or something.
Right.
But you chose to apply this to hip hop as
Mm.
as the forefront, as the flagship of who you are. So, how did just if you could maybe just give us a little, sprinkle us a little something about Islam, and then how did that just show up as far as you in the Bay Area?
Well, hip hop and Islam are they go hand in hand. I mean, hip hop and Islam goes as far back to I really think to the origins of hip hop. because you, I mean, it's been, whether you talk about the jazz influence that is greatly in a lot of hip hop records, or you talk about just Muslims that are in hip hop, that, you know, are have brought Islamic references, whether it's Ran Nubian or Rakim or, you know, or Mos Def or Yasin Bey.
Yeah,
You have different folks, Tribe Called Quest, another group, just different folks. And for me, like I said, it goes back to this who you are. And I think hip hop, I mean, if you can go back to like James Brown, or you going back to some of the older, you know, cats, the Miles Davis, they always kind of had that spirituality in there. And I think that that is such, it's a needed aspect and component of hip hop, where you don't really have it. As far as the Islamic kind of side of it, you have Christian hip hop, you have Christian rap, you have a lot of hip hop that is positive by default, but not necessarily something that is from that community. And it's a history to be proud of. You have Malcolm X, you have so many different leaders that are, Warfdeen Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad, as far as the Nation of Islam and their influence. It's a legacy that needs to be continued in hip hop. And so every so often you have groups that constantly that will come back and remind you of just being well, and reminding yourself of God and all that. And so for me, that was something that was really important to do, because a lot of my influences came from Black on Both Sides, or Reflection Eternal, or, you know, Allahu Akbar, or whatever. So it goes hand in hand.
yeah, yeah. I like that. I think as you were talking, I was also thinking, what were some local influences that you might have had Islamically? Was it a certain mosque or masjid? Was it a rap group, or just a community, or something that you used to do? Like, for example, and you know, some could argue like this isn't the best example, brother. Why would you say that? But I know for me, one of the steps that I took forward towards the path of Al Islam that I believe is true Islam as practiced by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was going out to the bakery and getting a fish sandwich.
Right.
At the time, for me, what I believe, based off what I went through, that was Islam at the time for me.
Yeah.
And do I have any regrets about that at that time? No. As we get older, we change, we see the perspectives become different. But I'm just saying that to say, like, was it anything for you on the ground in the Bay, Oakland, San Francisco, Berkeley, whatever, where you could point to and say, oh, and then that was that, a local version of, you know, what we just.
Locally in Oakland, we had a Islamic record label that used to be really popular, called Remarkable Current. And a guy named Ennis Cannon led that label, and they were a group of individuals of all different races, ethnicities, that were doing hip hop in a
Yeah,
way that was just true and authentic. We had Puerto Rican cast called M Team. They had my brother Tyson Amir. We had Amir Suleiman, who's
yeah,
now Grammy nominated, and we had all these folks as independent up and coming artists is trying to talk about things that we saw that was wrong with the government. I mean, this is once again post 9/11 America that is very anti-Islamic, I mean, is consistently anti-Black, but we want to put something out there that was saying, hey, we need to let people know that we're here and that we're not going anywhere. We're not changing our identity. We're not pulling off our headscarves or our kufis or whatever to
yeah,
be accepted, and that we're going to be unapologetically who we are. And that was something that Remarkable Current was a big group. There's a lot of you know, you have different folks, Saphir, you had Ascari X, you had you know, all different types of folks that were influenced by Islam, and you know, that had a influence, whether directly or indirectly,
yeah,
to me, but really Black on Both Sides. That, you know, Dead Prez, Let's Get Free,
yeah,
another album, 99 2000. That was a big time for this a change, because you were coming from the bling bling era, you know, and like, I'm broke, I didn't have money, so I wanted to have stuff that was speaking to me. And when
yeah,
you hear something like Umi says, you know, shed your light on the world, or even as he opened the album, he opens the album with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which is in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. And so for me, it was like, yes, this is what I wanted, because I don't have money to be iced out. You know what I mean? I needed something the money's cool, but you need something for your spiritual self. And I felt like those things, you know, kind of cater to that.
huh? I'm hearing you 100%, brother. All right. So before we move further one more time for people listening online, 89.5, or in person's KPOO. I am T.K.A.S.H. This is the original Friday Night Vibe. If you are listening online, 89.5 KPOO or online, kpoo.com. This is in conjunction with my boy KBZ at the Rap Snacks Radio Show right now. Well, maybe not right now if you're listening online. Friday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the city of San Francisco. If you're watching me on the original Friday Night Vibe on my brand new, quote unquote, brand new podcast. Hey, how you doing? I think after this little ID tag, we are going to move a little bit further to talk about a moment in time where, let's call this your peak. What was that as far as hip hop? You mentioned Remarkable Current. You mentioned this hyphy era moment in your life. And I'm maybe kind of giving away where I want to go after that, which is like, how did we get Amir the Photographer? Talk about what were some of the projects that you had at the time, and what were some of the highlights at the time? Because again, history is prone to repeat itself. You never know what's in your future.
Right.
So I don't want to say, and then that was it. We're just talking about that transition period. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I had a group called Out the Hydra that we started in 2002 in Sacramento. We came out with a project in I believe it was '06 with a debut project, and that did cool. And then went as a solo artist as 580 and did a project in '07. Stakes is still high, and decided like, hey, try my thing at rap. And it's really the birth of my son in 2011 was really the catalyst for just kind of the mental shift, becoming a parent, becoming a dad. I just found a lot of new joy, and learning how to capture and save memories was really kind of catalyst that led into photography. When you're a new father, every moment you want to capture, and so it was just going from those moments and years of doing that. And then 2018, that's when I decided to take that leap and actually do photography as a something I was passionate about. And so yeah, really the birth of my son was really the catalyst to start capturing and start to think about things differently.
Well, I like the way you described that, and I'm gonna ask what what was the like specific moment of that transition where you knew like you take it seriously, but other folks are taking this seriously to the degree you're like, oh snap, this might be more than what it is that I anticipated it to be. And I kind of know the answer to this. I know because we know each other off air, so to speak. I still remember those days where it was like, yo, man, they just reached out to me to get this. So and so just reached out to me. That was maybe beyond what it is that you expected for yourself, but it was like, yo, it's there, man. You follow through, follow up. Like, describe that moment in time as far as photography.
Um, Photography, my journey is a little interesting. I started in February 2018 at the Black Joy Parade. It was a first event of folks coming together to celebrate Black joy and wellness, and that was my first time taking a semi-professional camera out there. And after that event, I had these images, and I showed some people personally, like, hey, I took some of these images, and I got a lot of great feedback within the next week or two after that. And a lot of people were like, hey, you need to really consider becoming a photographer. And I was like, it's fun. And more people said it. And, within 2 weeks, I had enough folks that I felt like I should probably consider that. And so thinking of a name, I didn't even have a title, and I still couldn't think of one. And I just said, you know what, Amir the Photographer. It just something that's very simple. It gets to the point of what I do. And that was it. It's really just, and it happened early. Within the first couple of weeks, and ever since then I've been, for the most part, consistently inquired about, and it's been a blessing over the last 4 years. It's been really a big blessing.
That's what's up. That's what's up. You mentioned Black Joy. You
Mhm.
mentioned the feedback you got. What are some of the other early memories as far as like you did this event or you did a photo shoot for this person or group that still stand out to this day?
Man, with so many different folks, the as far as photography, in 2018 in the summer. there was a murder that happened on BART of a young woman named Nia Wilson. And it was they had a vigil of for her death at MacArthur BART, and I remember going with my camera. My first time being in a space where there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of grief, and just not knowing how to kind of navigate. But I actually, was there that day and took a lot of shots, and a lot of those shots became real powerful as far as just capturing that event. That's when it really stood out in 2018 was her murder, because she was innocently murdered on BART by someone that was had mental health issues, and someone that had all different types of problems. And so those in 2020, when we had the pandemic, the different protests around Black Lives Matter was also pivotal. We also had a young, my wife also lost a young youth to gun police violence. And that was big. His name is Sean Monterosa, and that was a big thing for our family. So it's a couple of different kind of points, but I mean, I've got a chance to photograph a variety of folks, every person from like Sean King to I mean, man, there's so many different folks. It's just, over the course of the over 4 years, it's just thousands of people, and just every person has their own different aesthetic. Everyone has their own different energy, and it's been a learning, because with photography, you got to understand energy. You got to understand just kind of how to navigate certain social situations, and so it's been a journey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think as you were talking, I was also thinking about the the more micro aspect of it too. When you talk about Nia Wilson, you talk about other victims of these societal ills.
Hmm.
How do you translate that through imagery? When it comes to a photo that's static, you're not putting graphic art on it. You might be manipulating the lighting,
Hmm.
you might manipulate like, oh, stand in front of this building, something like that. But what are some of your tech? And for the record, I'm not trying to give away the game. You know what I mean? Might be somebody listening right now, like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the photographer, and I really don't know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
How do I do it? Let me listen to the Friday Night Vibe and learn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. I'm just saying, like, what are some of the techniques that you have that make you stand out from the rest? Because you are pretty popping and pretty popular because of what you do. How do you do that when it comes to why it's so, your images are so prolific? I can look at it and be like, damn, you know what I'm saying? Or detailed, like, man, I didn't even know he had that many bumps on his chin like that. I'm being sarcastic, but I'm not. You know what I mean? How
Yeah.
do you?
First I would say is La ilaha illallah. I mean, for me, I honestly don't know. If you had to kind of break it down to the process, I think I would have to say intention is always the first one. Before I go out, I always have to make sure that my intention is right. Do I have the right energy? So much of photography deals with energy exchanges between people. I don't even go out. If my energy is, if I'm not feeling my best self, I don't go out. I'm very protective of my energy. And then a lot of times you're getting people to kind of open themselves up to a complete stranger. So there's a lot of kind of nuances that happen, but definitely starting off with intention. I think the second thing would just is just positioning. Finding out how you want to frame your photo, finding out what light looks best to you, identifying your subject. Everyone has a different story, and then you fighting through the anxiety, because I go through a lot of anxiety when I do photography, because you don't know. I don't like being rejected as a photographer. So to be in a situation where you're asking someone to trust you, essentially, is it's a lot. And so those two things, intentionality, the positioning, just fighting through the anxieties to ask that subject, because for every person you don't ask, you'll never know. And there's been thousands of people that I've passed up not being able to muster up enough courage to speak. So those are the two things: intentionality and definitely your positioning and framing of the image.
Well, I think that with respect to the hour-long interview we could have just on that alone, I want to stay in the pocket and I want to nudge it a little bit farther than that. Meaning, you've 4 years is a long time. You know what I'm saying? No
Mm.
matter what, good or
Yeah.
bad. In this sense, it's good. Right?
Yeah.
What do you see yourself doing with photography as Amir the Photographer over the next 2 years? And then the bonus question would be, you ever thought about picking up that mic again, brother?
You know, photography, I see myself as a traveling photographer. I mean, I still do it as a hobby, as you know, because I have a day job, but I love photography. I'm super passionate about it. It's something that I feel like is going to be with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
I see myself traveling. One of my greatest inspirations is Gordon Parks, for his contribution to history and to the American way of life. And I hope to hopefully remotely get close to his footsteps. He's a super big influence. Just as far as the closeness of his photography, as far as the variety of subjects he was able to cover, I only hope to even get a tenth of what his portfolio is. So,
yeah.
yeah, man, that's yeah.
All right, all right. Well, we got some bonus questions, some bonus topics we got to talk about, whether or not they come to fruition or not. A little more lighthearted.
Well, let
Oh,
me get on this one before you jump into that. You did ask about the hip hop.
yeah,
As
yeah,
a creative, as a creative, you always get that vibe. If you're an MC, you never stop rhyming. Like I rap every day.
right.
And it's just about like getting it behind a mic. So I want to do it. You know, what I mean, I want to be able to get back. Just because there's a void in hip hop still. Like we still need that balance. And there's a lot of artists that are doing a good job. You know, such as D Smoke or J Cole or Kendrick or any of those Londrell, which is one of my favorites. And so just to add to that, I think I'm at a point where I'm almost 40, and I'm like, okay, I'm at a point where I have some things to talk about. Before I didn't. Now I have some experiences and things like that I feel like I can share.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really not okay, man. I was just asking because other folks might ask down the line, like, hey, isn't that so and so? We ain't about to pick up the mic again. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that rap the rap.
Do a little rapid rap. You know what I'm saying? Well,
Yeah,
now I can definitely relate to not doing something for a while and then coming back and doing it again. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It's something called the Friday Night Vibe. So much so that we call it the original Friday Night Vibe because you hear a lot of different versions of that name, but don't get it twisted, people. 89.5 KPOO, KPOO.com, Rap Snacks radio show with my boy KBZ. I'm K.A.S.H, okay? I've been who I've been for a long time, all right? And this is the original Friday Night Vibe with Amir the Photographer. We got a few bonus questions and then we are out the door, man, okay?
Let's
First
do
one
it.
is, I know you're ready to get up out of here. It's about 12:30 uh, May the 1st, 2022. And this Warriors game is getting ready to come on any second now.
Let's go.
The game, man. Who you got in the game? Who you rooting for?
I'm a Dub Nation. I am a Warriors fan. I have it. Oh yeah, you can see it right there.
You got it.
The Warriors.
Yeah.
I am a diehard Warriors fan.
Okay.
The Splash Brothers, JP3, Lethal Weapon 3. We're going to
Okay.
handle our business. So I'm sending good love and energy. They're out in Memphis today. So I
Yeah.
hope they can handle Ja Morant and those Grizzlies and bring us to the Western Conference Finals.
All
And
right. Okay. Okay. Well, look, check this out, man. We're going to have a little fun for a minute and then we're out the door. I'm going to say either or. Like, another podcast does the same thing. I'm kind of biting them, though. You know what I mean? But I'll throw a few things out like, do you prefer this or that? And if not, you can just pass. You know what I mean? But
let's do it.
let's just have a little fun, a little lighthearted fun, and then we're out the door. Oh, and then this is a Bay Area edition. You know what I'm saying?
Let's
So
do it.
we're not about to get too, too fancy. You know what I mean?
All right.
Yeah. Sprouts or Whole Foods?
You know what? I'm gonna go with. Let me get Sprouts. Sprouts.
With
Let me do
Sprouts?
Sprouts.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
Sprouts is downtown Oakland. Whole Foods is over there by the lake. Let me do Sprouts. Sprouts.
okay. Here we go. We talk about Oakland, right? You ready?
Oh, go ahead.
Horn or Everett and Jones?
No, that Everett. Let me get the Everett with the
Hey,
with the
okay.
yeah. Yeah, let me get the brisket.
All right, here we go. Here we go. I got another one for you.
All right.
Solely vegan or vegan mob?
Ooh,
Oh, don't do it.
ooh.
Don't do it.
All right, let me ask you this: Are we
Yeah.
doing? We talking about we talking about just the food only, right?
Yeah.
All right, are we all right? So on the food, all right. I gotta go
Oh,
with
that's taking too long. That's taking
you know
too
what?
long.
I gotta go with solely vegan because they have the desserts. And vegan mod they be kind of finicky on the desserts. Solely vegan with my homegirl Miss Dyson, man, she does the desserts. So they got the carrot cake and the little cupcakes,
Okay.
and they got the lemonade,
Okay.
the cayenne. Yeah, so I gotta give it to solely. I love vegan mob too. You know what I mean? Those are the folks with the shrimp and the breaded shrimp and all that. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take it even more Bay Area than that. And when I say it, you're gonna laugh, but then you're gonna be like, "Man, it is kind of a question." You ready?
All right, go ahead.
Chicken adobo or pad thai?
Mm,
Oh, got it. Got it.
you know that's you know I gotta go with my
See,
wife would
see,
do pad thai. I gotta go with the adobo. I love the adobo, like you know what I mean, like
oh yes, I
that adobo slash mole, like yeah. So and that's the thing about the Bay. You gotta love the Latino food here in the Bay. So you gotta love the moles, you gotta love the adobo, you gotta love the tortas and all
do. Yeah.
that. So yeah, I'm gonna go that route.
Okay, here we go. We got a few more, and then we're out the door, man. You ready?
All right.
Damn it, this traffic on 101, or damn it, this traffic on I-80.
That's it's like you can't win on either one. Like yeah. Oh man. That's that's a draw. Like
Oh my God.
yeah, it's the worst. No matter what, if you're a one-on-one and rush hour going home from the city to Marin, or you're done. Or 80 going to Sag, or you're
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You lose. The worst one, hell, that's yeah. Because one-on-one got the two lanes. Yeah, that's horrible.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna take it a step further with traffic. I
All
swear
right.
I didn't make this one up, but it is the one though. This is
Okay.
gonna be like, oh no. Ready?
All right, go ahead.
Monday night, Highway 4 East, or Monday night, 880 South.
Ooh.
Oh God.
Ooh.
Woo. Yeah,
The worst
yeah.
one. I they both bad. All right, I'll take Highway 4 on this one because that's bad. I mean, that you talking about the Concord? That's horrible. Like,
I'm talking about before you get to Concord.
oh,
I'm talking about
yeah.
Martinez, Hercules.
Oh, like yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
bad. Like
Like I
it's
work in Richmond and I live in Pittsburgh, so I'm going up 80 and then
that's
that right.
you
Oh,
better
right.
you better pull over and go get you some dinner.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
yeah,
Yeah,
that yeah, Bay traffic is horrible. Luckily, luckily my commute is a lot shorter now. Used to be
yeah,
45, now I'm down to under 10. So
yeah.
I'm cool. But man, those I was spending years of doing that. At least 10 years traveling from Oakland to San Francisco over that bridge every day. And it's no joke. I mean, especially if you travel anywhere. If you're trying to go to a concert, go to a Warriors game in the evening, that commute will get you.
Yeah, yeah.
For real. Let me ask you a question though. Let
Yeah.
me reverse it. All right.
Good.
Soul Beat
Oh,
or CMC?
come on, Soul Beat, man. Soul Beat. Shout out Chuck. Shout out Chuck Johnson, man.
Shout out, man. Rest in peace, man. Like
Yeah,
that. It was so many legends on that show.
yeah.
Like if you look back on it now, Linnell, all these different personalities. I remember Cass used to call and crank call. So I love Soul Beat. Like the Gong Show. I used to want to be on the Gong Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I can I just say it? Because we're definitely you've been waiting on it. Everybody's been waiting on it for like 20 years for me to do this one. When it's time for entertainment, working.
Soul Beat. Hey.
Watching. Okay. He was singing it, so he was reading it and saying, when it's time for entertainment, working.
OB TV network #1.
Hey man, shout out to Shout out
Shout
to Chuck
out.
Johnson that's still here. Oh, young Chuck Johnson that is definitely keeping the culture alive, man. Because I
Yeah, shout
swear
out.
it's been up and back over and over again. Meaning
Mm.
it's still there. That's a good one, man. I got to go with Soul Beat.
All right, man. And shout out to Chewy Gomez too, the legend, man. That's the legend of the Bay, man. Shout out to Chewy, man, because he kept me. When you're broken, you don't have cable. CMC and Soul Beat held it down many days.
When you don't got no money for cable, you don't see the latest and greatest as far as the videos. That is where you went. If you did have cable, so be it was. You know what I'm saying?
Soul Beat or the box. You had the box.
Box. Yep. Yes, no, you're right. You did the box too. But I digress, man. How about we go ahead and wrap it up? I know they probably got tip off going for the game. You probably got a bunch of horse legs and right now.
Marinating for the last day of Ramadan, man.
Probably got some chicken fried bison shoulder.
Wow.
So I don't even want to disrupt that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Nah. All jokes aside, man, one of the things that me and this brother share is the beautiful religion of Al-Islam. Beautiful way of life of Al-Islam. And for a lot of people listening to this, you might be listening to it after the fact, but today is the last day of the holy month of Ramadan for 2022. So we definitely put in our effort, and we hope that the creator that we both believe in blesses that effort and accepts it.
I mean,
that is about it. One more time, everybody. This has been the original Friday Night Vibe. I'm K.A.S.H. This has been Brother Amir, aka Amir the Photographer, aka my homeboy from back in the day. Okay. And if you're listening on 89.5 KPOO, Soul of San Francisco, Rap Snaps Radio Show, KBZ in the building. This is the exact same thing you would listen to on KPOO.com or visualize with me on our social media networks as well. Until next time, my brother, and I will talk to you when I talk to you. Okay? Peace.